I shall go along to some things that I really want to do, but you're still going to be kind of at the mercy of the sensible lockdown and other people doing it properly and getting the virus reduced as fast as possible. Hello, I'm Vernon and live in London, and since March the 14th, when my GP suggested I'd be shielded from coronavirus, I've not been out apart from a couple of times recently with lifting of lockdown. I've had food parcels delivered, things that I don't eat, white bread, meat pies. Then there's things I do, like I've got more soup than you can imagine sitting around. Rice keeps arriving, pasta. I do those production run pasta sauces that I really don't like. And somewhere in there was a tin of peach slices. Not my cup of tea. Stop that now that I get free access to Sainsbury's online. It took the government weeks to tell Sainsbury's that I existed and needed the free delivery service priority. I do it all online now. I get Sainsbury's, as I said, I get them to deliver. And of course I tip the drivers because they do a great job risking it all. It's actually easier than going to Sainsbury's, really. You don't have to go out. For some reason I haven't managed to get hold of any flour for months and months and months. So I took the drastic measure of buying 16 kilos of it, which I'm now busily turning into brown bread. It got delivered to the neighbour because I was out, just doing something locally. When I came back, the neighbour was struggling to lift it. People who are considered very vulnerable to coronavirus, like me with health conditions, have been identified by our GPs and told to isolate and keep shielded. I got a letter from the GP, as far as I can recall, it said something like, you have been identified as at severe risk from COVID because of your COPD and other health conditions and must stay indoors shielded. Then there was a list of government websites to register as vulnerable for the free food, and various letters from the GP and the doctors and the hospitals saying don't come here. And they're actually very helpful because I have other prescription medicines and they're very helpful at getting those organised. Birdshot is an eye condition that your immune system develops an antigen which eats the retina, and as a result I'm partially sighted, so that just adds to the mix, as well as having COPD. I sit closer to the screen than most people, I guess. I still manage. Sometimes I make errors and have to read things 2 or 3 times to make sure they are what I think they say. I can often read things too quickly and get it completely wrong. I'm the king of the typos, of course. I have health conditions, so I'm usually indoors a lot anyway. It really hasn't been that difficult. Normal day would be eat, organising bridge tournaments and sitting and running bridge tournaments if I'm not playing them. Read. Somebody just gave me a Kindle, which I'm thoroughly enjoying once I manage to get it going. And I'm very busy digitising various music off cassettes into MP3s. Everybody's a DJ nowadays. The internet is awash with people doing little lockdown sessions. You could virtually do it 24 hours a day if you wanted to. I have done some. There's plenty. I think I'm lucky to have an internet nowadays. I mean, you couldn't imagine doing this without some form of entertainment. And I was doing some thinking about it earlier this morning. You wouldn't dream of sitting at home chatting to your daughter in Sweden via a computer 20 years ago even. It's amazing, absolutely amazing. Loneliness is a big problem for the elderly who can't access the internet, I would imagine. I don't know, obviously, because I've had no contact with people, I don't know anyone else who's shielding. I know lots of people who stay indoors, but I don't know anyone else who's actually shielded. I've had 2 or 3 friends pop by since the lockdown was sort of lifted a bit. But apart from that, no, I'm very cautious. They have to sit far away from me. Fortunately, the room's big enough and I can make them sit at one end while I'm at the other, usually in front of this screen. It's no replacement for actively sitting down and having a chat with your friends and family, of course. My dad's been round delivering the food boxes week on week. It's very handy. We stand about 3 metres apart, wave at his things and just gently muck about for a few minutes, and then he disappears. Then I've had the daughter popping round of essential supplies sometimes. She's been her usual busy self at work, so she's pretty much as usual. We'll see her once in a blue moon. And apart from that, we'll keep in touch on the interweb. I spend a disgustingly long time on Facebook from time to time, so I keep in touch with a lot of people. But it would be nice to get out and about more. I've been out twice in the last 3 weeks, and again, I'm not motivated to go out very much. I get the shopping delivered, plenty here to keep me busy, and no gigs to go to. Most of the shows that I had booked were cancelled. All the festivals I had booked for this year cancelled. Comedy shows cancelled. And I know a lot of people involved in the music and entertainment industry in one way or another. It's been a terrible year. Terrible. Wiped out their economy completely. The government has announced some sort of plan to inject money into local venues and the arts, but the people at the gig end of the gig economy, so to speak, it's not easy for them to claim. I don't know the details yet. There's certain noticeable things now. Some buses for a while you could only get on the back door, so you were nowhere near the driver. Tragically, a lot of drivers died. I've not been able to go and see any trains or travel on trains. That's my other fun hobby. You don't know how to shake hands, wave, smile, or how close you can get to people, where it's safe to sit. There's a big debate about masks. I personally think they're rubbish, but everyone says if it reduces the risk, you wear one. At the moment, you're supposed to wear one on public transport and in shops, but then you don't have to wear it if you're sitting out in the garden anywhere. Most people don't bother. I've even seen a lot of idiots wandering around with their nose over the top of the mask. They must think that the nasal cavity goes somewhere else, like the nasal cavity. It's a hollow cave that doesn't have anything to do with your respiratory system. A lot of people have their own ideas. A lot of people seem to have treated it as a free holiday for a long while, which is why some places in Sheffield and Leicester and Rotherham, where one of my bridge friends lives, they've all got high rates of COVID. There's an app on the BBC, you can type in your postcode and see the local infection rate. Because they're not testing anything lightly enough, real figures are very hard to come by. But you have to morbidly watch the death rate, how many people have died and how many cases are reported. You could walk around in a permanent state of fear if you did that. Luckily, the infection rate in Harringay has been very low, so I don't feel that dangerous wandering up as far as the town hall. I'm in the glorious town of good football, 400 yards from the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. The Spurs Stadium has been turned into a maternity ward, and lots and lots of lucky children have been born at the Spurs grounds. It's the White Hart Lane maternity wing of the Middlesex Hospital. The football season just finished, so there's no more football. So I'm still not going to be watching much telly at all. Football is just outrageously money orientated. One thing I really do approve of is the Black Lives Matter, where they take a knee now, and just racism's got to stop. The local guys here have painted Black Lives Matter along the pavement right outside the flats. You try and keep an eye on what other people are saying, what else is going on. You've got a Prime Minister who wanted herd immunity, who didn't want to know about masks. There's even rumours that he didn't really have coronavirus, he just needed 2 weeks to hide so that he didn't look like such a moron. I think it's up to the media to report the truth, and they don't. They only ever report the government side of the story in a way that suits the government to try and disguise their incompetence. They didn't take it seriously from the start. They delayed taking measures to stop it that could have saved more lives, and they delayed taking other measures such as putting infected people into care homes. That's a total disgrace, that is. the BBC doesn't report nearly enough on that, let alone the so-called newspapers. It would be nice if we had a free press that actually reported what's really going on. What we've got is a press and media that just frankly are propaganda merchants, and they don't do a proper job at all. We've got a nationalistic government and all the propaganda focuses just on here and just tries to make their bungling look not as bad as other places. So true information, I mean, it's take India, hardly anyone knows what's going on down there, and that must be really in trouble. There's a particularly fun thing on Facebook. There's a picture of all the world leaders of the countries that have responded best to coronavirus, all women, and there's pictures of all the countries that have not done very well with it, all right-wing moron leaders. You figure. If you listen to Radio 4's Women's Hour, I think the appropriate phrase is toxic masculinity. What you've got, if you look at them, is a bunch of blokes, and they've got an ideology that is not suited to looking after people in an emergency. The only way they think is money. I think they've been completely washed away with it because their ideology just doesn't involve dealing with a pandemic. And quite frankly, the rush to get back to a so-called normal economy is not a good idea. It doesn't really take into account the dangers. They just can't wait to get most people back into an old routine so they carry on getting richer and richer. There's no green plan to get out of it. There's no ideologically sound way of or approach to a green future. They're still determined to ruin the planet. It washed over their heads and that they just have no real way of knowing what to do. And all they've managed to do is oddly enough, do all the things that the Labour Party would have done and throw money at it big time. Of course, somebody, they say, would have to pay for it. Well, because I've been shielded and told to stay at home, I don't have to go up to the benefit office every 2 weeks as usual. It's been suspended. And I imagine that once we manage to get through the worst of it, I'll have to start again. I don't have a job. I'm officially job seeking. I go to various hospitals because of various conditions. Moorfields and Magic, although I haven't been there this year now. I've got another hospital that's looking after the COPD. They're marvellous staff. I can't, thinking about it, I don't think I've actually seen any English people in the hospitals apart from consultants and doctors. And it all feeds into the racism that's endemic in this country, and the low priority that's given to these people is just disgusting. I think it's disgracefully underfunded, abused. I think the government would love to sell it off. It's an outrage. We shouldn't be clapping them, we should be paying them and funding them properly. It's very surprising how, despite the way the government would like things not to work, they do work and people do pull together. Well, hopefully it will make it much more of a public conscious thing to avoid the privatisation that government are aiming at. The horrible, nasty truth to that is not until there's a vaccine, because I'll permanently be at risk of it. I mean, you can go out and have fun on the assumption that you're in a relatively safe place, but the so-called R rate is hovering between 0.7 and 0.9, I'm told. So it reduces the spread of the virus, but there are some hotspots like Leicester that have been up over 140. If the R rate goes above 1, then you're going to spread the virus because there's more people going around spreading it. I think the Maybank holiday was a dead giveaway. Everybody fled to Skegness, for God's sake. The beach has got crammed. There's no social distancing. It's very dangerous conditions to risk it. Given the example of our government, their lax attitude to it's not good. Given that you still see people walking around the street with their nose hanging out the top of the mask, not good. Given that there have been illegal raids, People are not very good at self-isolating when they're pissed. Most people have managed to isolate and keep each other out of trouble. Most people. Of course, it doesn't help when people in the government seem to flout the laws and think they're above it all. I shall go along to some things that I really want to do, but you're still going to be kind of at the mercy of the sensible lockdown and other people doing it properly and getting the virus reduced as fast as possible. By and large, the facts are there. People do die from it. It is best to stay out the way. The long haul here is not until the vaccine. Starting out on the fact that we're all mad one way or another anyway. No, I'm no worse than anyone else. Thank you very much.